What's up, man?
Oh, hey.
What you doing?
Scrapbooking.
Nice.
First big event.
Nice. Awesome. What are you doing, man?
What? I was just cutting the...
Yeah, exercising your right hand privilege right in front of me. You know I'm left-handed.
Well, yeah, it's just I thought...
No, you don't understand. It's not fair in this world to be left-handed. We are at a disadvantage when using your right-handed scissors to cut stuff. Must be nice.
I guess I just never really thought that...
Well, you're gonna think now. We're gonna make you check your right-handed privilege right now.
Okay.
Again! 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 Come on.
Footballs aren't even right-handed, man.
What?
It's all upside down, man. This is impossible.
Mm-hmm. See? Not very easy, is it? Alright, so,
Been educational.
yeah, now you know what it's like to be left-handed. It's pretty tough. It's hard to do it in this world.
For real, dude.
Yep.
Left-handed high five?
Alright.
Alright. Morgans!
Hey everyone, welcome to Muh. My name's Steve.
And I'm Chris.
And you're probably wondering what's with all the school supplies.
Should we tell him?
No, we're not going to tell you. We're going to make you sit and stare at all the school supplies for the next few minutes while we talk about
The Fed.
Dun, dun, dun. So you're probably, what's the Fed? What is the Fed? The Fed. Well, it's one of the only federal agencies that's literally called the Fed. What do you call FBI agents? The Fed sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So there's two. But
It's usually like plural though.
the Feds, yeah. So you know what the Fed is. The Fed is the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve banking system. Yep. Yeah. They're great. We love them. I think they're, you know. What does the Fed do?
What doesn't it do now?
Its job? So they trade in fiat currency. They're kind of they create the monetary policy for the United States, and what they do is they decide on the federal loan rate, which is what people borrow money from the Federal Reserve, which is the government, kind of, and they that is used to invest in other stuff.
They regulate the amount of currency in the market.
Basically now it's just ones and zeros in the market. They literally go type into their little computer and more currency comes out without actually printing it on actual paper.
So we want to talk about how this concept began.
Yeah. So in 1776, the forefather...
Who? Actually, gotta rewind a little bit to the 1500s.
Were there forefathers in the 1500s?
At least 2 or 3.
Oh, okay.
So back then, you had bankers who would take deposits of people's gold and hand them receipts for these. Now, a lot of people figured out, it's easier just to trade these paper receipts than to go get my gold out every time. So
Makes
far,
sense.
no harm, no foul.
Right.
But the banks figured out, wait a minute, if they're just trading receipts and not coming back for their gold, we're almost never going to need to keep all the gold on hand. We can issue receipts at a rate of like 10 times what we're holding.
That's brilliant.
And we can issue credit that way, and we can make interest that way. And so, yeah, that's sort of where the whole concept began, except the problem is, what if there is a rush on the actual holdings? They're not prepared for that.
Well, we should explain what a rush is too, because we're going to probably refer to that a couple times.
Anyone seen It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah. Oh, is that where he jumps off where he rushes to jump off the bridge?
He seemed pretty lethargic about it, kind of.
That's true. So, what a rush is when there's a panic of some sort, the stock market's crashing, or there's a big disaster of some sort. People rush to the bank, hence rush, to withdraw their actual gold. Well, back in the day it was gold, now it's cash. So that they have cash on hand to be able to buy things, because you can't buy things with credit, potentially in a crisis.
Yeah, and that's the downside when it all goes down.
Well, I think your reference to It's a Wonderful Life was it's extremely important, because like at the end of the rush that he was in, what he ended up having to do was he explained to the people, he was like, your money's not in the bank, your money's in so-and-so's house and in so-and-so's business and da-da-da-da-da. He was explaining it. And then they were just like, we want our money. So he literally had to take his own money from his honeymoon that he never got to leave town. George Bailey never got to leave town.
WTF.
But he ended up taking that money out of his own pocket, and he was handing it out. And at the end of it, he literally had 2 $1 bills. And they were like, go make babies! And they put them in the safe. But that's pretty much the whole gist of that.
Yeah, the downside of the fractional reserve banking system.
Yes.
Where you can lend out 10 times in excess of what you're actually holding. And that became the norm. In what year, Steve?
1913. Ding, 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 ding. Right?
What did he win?
Lifetime of debt. In 1913, a whole bunch of people, rich people, super rich people, got together on an island called Jekyll Island. Really?
That's not foreboding.
Yeah, like, let's have a secret clandestine meeting to figure out how to manipulate the monetary policy of the United States. Let's go to Jekyll Island.
Yeah, this doesn't in any way symbolize transformation into something incredibly evil.
No. At this clandestine meeting, they basically wrote the, was it a bill or a law or whatever you want to call it, that took the monetary policy away from the U.S. Congress. Congress has the right to issue money from the Constitution. It's actually in the Constitution. So Congress voted to give up their constitutional power to a private bank, even though it says Federal Reserve.
Yeah, they made sure to put that federal word in there too, so it sounded like something that was Congress's idea.
Well, it's because it's not the first time we've had a central bank in the United States. We've had 2 other times, and both other times it's failed because the U.S. population were like, we don't like the idea of a central bank. But once they threw the federal in front of it, people were like, oh, okay, it's federal. It must be okay.
It's supposed to even out the bumps in the road. It's supposed to stop little private banks from going under. It's supposed to basically just even things out. But what is it with this constant boom-bust cycle it seems to have brought on instead?
Well, in economics, as far as I know, I'm an economist or anything, but there's always been boom and bust cycles throughout history. And those boom, but that's like a normal fluctuation of the markets and the way people buy things and the way things go.
Market corrections.
Yeah, but those are always really small bumps. Whereas now with the Federal Reserve, you have these like high ups and then these giant lows. High ups, giant lows.
As I mentioned before, they were tended to be pockets, localized.
Yeah.
Now it's one policy that covers everything.
And now because other we've convinced other countries to follow this same plan. Now all the economies are kind of based on this fractional reserve banking, and if one goes, almost all the other ones are going to go. At least the major countries.
So I mean, obviously, if you're like putting out all kinds of money for startups and credit and all this stuff, yeah, you're going to get those highs. I mean, I don't argue that, but they're artificial highs.
Yeah. Well, it's the you know, recently we've had the tech bubble, we had the housing market bubble, and now we're in a new car bubble, which is fun for some of us that got a car and can actually afford it. But for a lot of these people now, they're not able to afford newer cars, and they're getting these high interest, it's basically the same thing for the houses, but now it's for cars.
Yeah, and I mean, it's easy to say, okay, you should be able to, you know, do your budget, find out what you can afford, but when it seems like, oh, everybody can do this, I guess I can too. You're not seeing these people treading water.
Right. But also like those loans, the interest is so high that like the payments look easy. It's $50 a week, and then you realize, or $100 a week, and you're like, oh my God, that's $400 a month. You're like, oh shoot. And that's what happens to a lot of these people.
Yeah. People who want to put the terms of their loan in weekly amounts. I just don't do that. And another problem that our central banking system has introduced is runaway inflation. And with a few words on that, the mistress of all taterdom, Jessica Baird.
Hey guys, I want to talk about the Federal Reserve and how they print money out of thin air and make new money and cause inflation. This is probably the biggest issue we have economically. It's decreased the dollar by 95% since 1913. Eventually, it will ruin us if we don't stop it, and there's no way to just stop and pay it back. So somehow something has to be done, and a lot of people have different theories, but this is by far, in my opinion, the absolute worst possible thing that that you can do to an economy. Is just inflate it until it pops. I want to know what your guys' opinions were on a solution, if you think there's a solution, or if you think that we're just going to have to be destined towards some kind of Great Depression again.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm still not sure why they do that, in all honesty, because who has the most to lose from something like this? People who have tons of money in the bank, because the money that they put in the bank 10, 20 years ago isn't worth what it was when they put it in the bank.
Yeah, imagine thinking you had enough to retire and then, oopsie. I have a sideline of coin collecting. And some of those coins were silver, and seeing the prices of an ounce of silver, even if it wasn't like a big collector piece, just the fact that it was an ounce of silver skyrocket meant the dollar was getting so weak.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good segue into one of the things that the Federal Reserve has actually done to us, and that is they've convinced our representatives to vote out the gold standard. The gold standard was, like, if you had a dollar, it was based on how much a dollar could buy in gold. Which is fine, because then you could go to the bank, I got a dollar, I want $1 worth of gold, they give you $1 worth of gold. Boom, you're good. You have enough solid, actual product. Well, in what, like 1970, late 1960s, Nixon had a bill put into the Congress that got rid of the gold standard. In fact, actually made it illegal for a long time for U.S. citizens to actually own gold. You couldn't own gold. You couldn't collect gold and keep it as a way to save money.
which also ties in to what I was going to say in answer to Jessica's question. How do we get out of this?
Right.
I mean, just shutting it down tomorrow probably would be mass panic.
Yes.
And chaos, and everything would crash immediately.
Yep.
I mean, we're headed for a crash if we don't do something anyway, but my idea is getting out of this gradually via competing currencies.
Yes. Cryptocurrencies. Or just regular currencies themselves, like actual paper money. I think it would be great if smaller communities, like say like Janesville here, had its own currency. You could only buy stuff in Janesville with it. You know, you could start local businesses. You could go to and then ratchet up to actually where big corporate stores will take this currency. It could compete with the U.S. currency and actually keep the inflation down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as one, you know, as the U.S. fiat currency kind of starts to tank, you've got something to take its place. It's not. It doesn't have to be this horrible crash, mass panic, because people have been kind of starting a backup plan.
Yeah.
Problem is, they're trying to make it pretty hard on a federal level to have competing currency.
I think they're actually. I've heard there's bills out there trying to make like cryptocurrencies illegal, like Bitcoin and whatnot.
Yeah, you know they're going to try.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, it really does come down to if you are controlling the currency, you've got your hand in everything else. Anyway, you're more or less the power behind the throne.
Yep. The most important thing is, do we end the Fed? Yes. Do we need to do it slowly, like Chris said? Yes. Let's ratchet it down. Let's start getting these currencies out there. Let's start doing what we need to do. And let's allow the markets to do their job. I think that's an episode. What do you think?
You know, I'm kind of liking this one.
All right, yeah, me too. All right, everyone. Have a good night.
See, hey, wait.
What? Oh, Jesus. I forgot. All right, so anyway, for our Rock County Libertarian Party, we decided to help get our name out there, but also to show that if you work towards something, ratcheting the government down, like we always say, you have to work towards it.
Yeah, community can't step up.
Yes. And so what we decided to do is, you see a lot of these collections around town for school supplies, and it's for the students, which is great. That's an awesome thing to do, right? But no one thinks about the teachers. And you hear a lot of times about the teachers having to reach into their own pocket to buy their own supplies to help the students out. And it's nice of them to do that, but they shouldn't be responsible for that. And the government obviously doesn't want to pay for this stuff because then the teachers wouldn't have to do it. So what did we do?
Well, we started a collection.
Yep.
All around town, setting out boxes and finding stuff, and thank you to all the places that participated.
Yes. Thank you very much. And we also had a lot of friends and family and people donate supplies. And that's what this is. This isn't all we've got, actually. We have
this is probably scarcely half of it.
Yeah, right around half. So, you know, thank you for everyone who donated. We really appreciate it.
People stepped up so hard.
And I want to say big thanks to him and a big thanks to Reese, because you guys, without you two, I don't know if this would have went off as well as it did. You guys were rock stars.
And a big thanks to Jessica Baird for those sharp flyers.
Yes, yes, thank you, Jessica. So, alright, that's why we have this. So, everyone, good night.
See ya.
That was hard holding, like trying to sit up like that. All right, let's.
Want to make sure we got that shot.
Oh yeah. Cool.